So let's review what happened in aesthetic plastic surgery at the Face and Eyelids for the month of January 2017. So in PRS, there's a very interesting paper written by Patrick Trevidic. He's a plastic surgeon from Paris, France, an excellent anatomist. And the title of the paper is Platysmal Bands is a Change Needed in the Surgical Paradigm. So he studied 25 patients with unilateral facial paralysis and noted that none of these patients had significant banding in the neck in the paralyzed side, therefore concluding that is the activity of the platysmal muscle that is causing these platysmal bands and worsening of the neck contour. Now, I think the most interesting thing about the paper is actually the discussion performed by Joel Feldman nonetheless. And certainly it's a very interesting read, the discussion. He does say, and I quote, "It all makes sense, but there are at least two flies in the ointment." And these two flies are at least the two criticisms he makes about this sort of paradigm shift that Trevidic proposes in the management of neck aging is, first of all, that there's definitely hyperactivity in the contralateral side of patients with facial paralysis. And then, of course, that, it's been tried, denervation of the platysmal muscle and denervation of platysmal bands with Botox has been attempted with quite unsuccessful results. Now, I think he ends up the paper also with a very nice phrase. He says, "The bottom line is that I do not believe that the time has yet come for a paradigm shift in our approach to paramedian neck bands." I think it's true. It's something to investigate. Perhaps in the future we could improve our results through selective denervation of the platysmal muscle. But for the moment, definitely the best management for neck aging is surgery. And also, I do recommend at the end of this PRS issue, there's a couple of maintenance of certification, continued medical education papers. The evidence-based papers, in this case on facelift and on lower eyelid surgery. They're excellent review papers. I think they cover the whole spectrum of facelift and lower eyelid surgery. I think we have to take a little caution with this evidence-based term for these papers, because I remember some younger residents, when they read this, they sort of say, there's evidence that doing this is not correct because there's this paper on PRS where it says that this is not useful. I think we have to take it with a grain of salt. Evidence in aesthetic plastic surgery is very, very difficult to attain through a very well carried out study. They're very difficult because it's very surgeon dependent and technique dependent. Now, going on to ASJ, there's an excellent paper on neck rejuvenation. It's by André and Luis Auerswald and Carlos Oscar Webel from Brazil, and it's called Subplatysmal Neck Lift, a retrospective analysis of 504 patients. Now, I really believe that a subplatysmal approach is key to achieving long-term results in neck rejuvenation. Now, I've been presenting subplatysmal techniques ever since, ESAPS Geneva, also in Montreal in 2015. I think, it's really the way to go if you want to achieve long-term and evident results in your facial and neck rejuvenation patients. Now, there's an interesting comment by Bam and Gayaran on this paper. There's some things I can't agree with Bam on this occasion. He says that 60% of partial gland resection in these patients seems excessive. I don't agree. I think when you want to achieve a nice contour in the jawline, you don't have to think that there's a percentage that is appropriate. You just contour the neck, and if the gland is there, you remove part of it. There's no need to argue whether a correct percentage is 20%, 30%, 60 or 80%. I think the results are there. He does say that one of the results seem like over-resected. I don't agree, actually. I think the results from this paper are excellent. And also he does comment, Bam, on the placement of the scar, whether behind the crease or on the crease. I think this argument really, it's been done before, you know, but there's definitely, you can get a perfect scar behind the crease, and you don't have to go right on the crease, because there is a risk that you actually might make that crease more evident. Nevertheless, I think it's a worthwhile discussion by, of course, by Dr. Baumann-Gailleron, and certainly the paper is outstanding, and it's certainly a must-read from this month of ASJ. Finally, there's a very interesting couple of letters on the effect of fat grafting on upper eyelid ptosis. You know, there is some debate whether fat grafting in the upper eyelid can provoke a ptosis, and other surgeons argue that it can actually improve the appearance of ptosis when you perform a fat grafting procedure on the upper eyelids. I hope this was interesting, and I hope to see you next month in Plastica Review to go through the latest news in aesthetic plastic surgery of the face and eyelids. Thank you very much.